You don't fall off your goals or desires because you don't want them. And I'm sick of people gaslighting you and thinking you're the problem. We actually fall off because we never made space in our day for the process that actually makes our goals real and brings them to life. I think there's something that we all don't like to admit about goals. It's not that we set the wrong ones, it's that we fall off, make a commitment, and a few weeks in, we quietly stop making the space for the process that would actually get us to our goals. Hey, it's George. Welcome to the Mind of George Show. This is where we get real, we get raw, we get honest with things that we're actually living or people are sharing about building a life and business we love and scaling it. No hacks, no tactics, but true alignment, our mindset, our message, our marketing, our customer journey, so that we can create sustainable growth and actually achieve the things that we desire. And if you have ever brought the same goal or a similar goal into a new month, a new quarter, or a new year again and again and again, and it hasn't changed, this episode's for you. And I want to be really honest. You don't lack desire. You don't need more willpower. You actually need a different way of looking at distance. And I was just yesterday actually on a 22-hour flight day home from Barbados. I mapped out this entire podcast in my notebook, how to actually break free the start strong, fall off, feel shame, start over cycle that most people have with their goals. And I have to give credit to James Clear and Atomic Habits because I molded that with my own reps and the patterns that I see with entrepreneurs every single day. And here's what we have to understand. The bigger the goal, the bigger the gap between where we are and where we think we should be. And if you stare at that gap, your brain reads it as failure. But if you stare at the process, your brain starts to collect proof. So in this episode, I break it all down. I walk you through the 5-step flywheel that actually turns a goal into your identity, which is process, progress, proof, pattern, and identity. And then I break down why your goals are backfiring. And it's not because they're too big, but it's because your calendar has no room for them. And I give you a super simple reset called W.I.N, easy to remember, that you can use anytime you notice yourself drifting. And we break down how to use it, when to use it, so you can use it today. And so I think by the end, you'll stop asking, like, why can't I stay consistent? Why am I falling off? And you'll start asking the different question is, what's the next aligned action I can take today? So I'm excited about this one. Take a breath. It's fast. It's to the point. It's direct. It's less than 20 minutes. Grab a notebook or somewhere to type notes. And I want you to write down the process and the cycle that I share with you. And think about that one goal that you're tired of restarting: weight loss, amount of clients, the way you do business. Because we're going to stop obsessing over the finish line and we're going to fall in love with the reps that actually get us there. So without further ado, let's get into the episode. I need to address this head on because I don't like watching people falling off from goals. And I want to help you and myself break the cycle for good. Because there is something about goals. We are in January of 2026 and everybody has set them: business goals, personal goals, big ones, right? The sexy big goals, the 6-figure launch, the new podcast in the top 10, the dream body of our dreams, the dream body of our dreams. But yet somehow when we get to this point, people start to fall off. We set these big goals, we hit them really, really hard, and then we slowly erode away. We stop being consistent with them. And then we believe the things like, oh, we need more willpower, when we don't. But we don't actually need more willpower. We need a new process. And I am excited about this one because I mapped this one out on a flight home from Barbados, or I should say 3 flights over 22 hours, on how to break the cycle once and for all by focusing on the right thing. And I'm going to give James Clear from Atomic Habits his flowers because this is a combination of his genius mixed with experience and reps that I want to share with you. Whether it's a business goal, an entrepreneurial goal, a life goal, it applies to all of us. But if you've ever felt like you are always starting over, or you bring the same goal into the new year and you're constantly resetting, or ever even doubting yourself and wondering if you're going to follow through, I want to break all of that down. because he said something that hit me really hard, which I'm going to get to later in the show, about why our goals are backfiring. And there's one clear reason that they backfire, and it's because we're focusing on the wrong thing. And I'm going to help you focus on the right thing with a simple shift. And the goal here is not that we just do it once, but we can do it over and over and over again and actually have the ability to change things in our life. And in the previous solo episode, I talked about how 2026 can be your best year ever with a message from my incredible pastor, Levi Lusko. And this is really when you want that year to be your best, or you want the business to be different, or you want your life to be different. How do I stay consistent with that? And how do I not fall into the trap of having a new year with the same results and just a different date? And one of the mistakes that people make is they think that we don't achieve our goals, or we don't get the things that we set out after because of discipline. And they're told, like, hustle harder, grind harder, right? You're not clear enough, but it's actually not discipline. It's distance, right? So I think about myself personally with this one all the time. I've fallen into this trap of making a vision board, setting this giant goal, staring at it every day, but then a couple weeks later realizing I fell off. And I think it's important to call this out for exactly what it is. I don't fall off because I lack the desire to achieve the goal. You don't fall off because you don't actually want what you say you want. You do want it. You do want the goal. You do have the desire to have the goal. But the reason we fall off is because we don't make the space in our day to day for the goal to happen. And so when we understand this, when it comes to goals, and goals could be only working 4 hours a day instead of 8, goals could be being consistent with our physical body, goals could be how we eat, goals could be adding revenue to the business through clients, goals could be any of those things. But there really is a correlation that we have to understand. The bigger the goal that we set, the bigger the gap is between where we are and where we think that we should be. And the bigger and bigger that gap, the more overwhelming that gap becomes. And our mind as a human being tends to default to interpreting that as failure. But it's actually not failure. It's just an increasing distance that we have to travel because we have big, hairy, audacious goals. Dan Sullivan talks about this with his book with Benjamin Hardy called The Gap and the Gain. But if we want to set these big goals, which I think we all should, is set these goals, and we don't want our mind to interpret it as failure, what do? And what are the mistakes that most people make? Well, we start over. We tweak the goal. We try a new planner. We try to plug back in. We try to use force to actually get ourselves to do it, but it never sticks. And the true solution isn't that we need a better goal. It isn't that we need to change the goal. It's actually that we need to tighten our focus. But it's what you tighten the focus on that makes the biggest difference. It's not tightening our focus on the goal. It's actually tightening our focus on the process. It's asking ourselves better questions. So, when am I going to do this action that's going to bring me to the goal? Have I set an alarm on my phone to follow through with that behavior? Did I create space in my calendar to even have the time to take the action that's going to lead me to this goal? And the way that we have to think about this is that goals are directions, but the systems that we create to reach that goal are the traction or the path that lead to it. And systems don't have to be complicated. They actually just have to be created, and we need to create the space for them to happen. And James Clear said this, and this is a summary of what he said, but I got to give him his flowers, is that the goals are direction, but the systems are the traction. Because most people, and verbatim from him, and he's sold, 5 million copies of that book because it works. Goals are not missed because you don't have the desire to have the goal. Goals are missed when we stare at the goal instead of staring at the process that's going to create the goal. And I think it's important to understand the loop or the circle. Like we'll call it a flywheel, right? A big circle of the process that we go through when we set a goal and then actually achieve that goal. And this process, this flywheel, it has 5 clear parts. Number 1 is you have the process. Number 2 is you have progress. Number 3 is you have proof. Number 4 is you have pattern. And number 5, you have identity, right? So number 1 is process. What is process? Process is small aligned actions done consistently. So what is that process? Well, if I want to lose 10 pounds in the next 6 months, one of those small aligned actions might be taking 5,000 steps a day, drinking more water, and tracking my calories. But doing that once doesn't change anything, but doing it consistently every single day and following that process leads to the next one, which is progress. Progress it comes after process. With progress, those small aligned actions that we take, they build momentum, but most importantly, they build evidence. Evidence that we can do it. Evidence that we are doing it. We see physical changes. We feel changes. And that progress leads to proof. That momentum that we creates evidence. And that momentum and evidence become personal proof. I can do this. I can wake up early. I can do hard things. I am consistent. And when we have that proof creates emotional safety and repetition, which is the pattern. And then we see that pattern and we continue to follow that pattern as we create that new groove. And that pattern leads to our identity. Because that identity is when that pattern becomes who we are, not just what we do. And as James said, it's not about achieving the goal. It's about becoming the kind of person who does. And when we fall off, when we struggle, when we trip and fall, when we're inconsistent, we get disconnected from the process. And then we go back to looking at the gap as proof that we haven't earned it yet. And so what do you have to do? So if we set this goal, we have this goal for the business to get new clients. We have this goal for our life to lose weight. And we end up being inconsistent with the process. How do we refocus on the process? And what we really need is not a process to follow once a month or once a year. It's a process to follow every single day in these small moments where we realize that we're not going through that flywheel, that we're not following the process, which creates the progress, which creates the proof, which creates the pattern, which then changes our identity. So we need something to fall back on, which is a really easy process reset. So I'm going to make it really, really easy for you because it's easy to remember and it's WIN. So what is the process reset? It's WIN. So the W is what's the next action that I can take today? And this is important. Not the best action, not the final action, not the perfect action, the next action. The I is it aligned with who I want to become? Because your identity will dictate the goal, not the goal itself. So an easy one that I heard one of my clients say that I love is that, would my future self be proud of me if I make this choice or make this decision? And then the N is now, not later. Act now, not when it's perfect or when the quote unquote motivation comes back, but because now I'm committed to the process so that I can be in progress, so that I can create the proof, so that I can create a new pattern, so that I can create a new identity. And so why do we fail to stay consistent with the goals that we set at the beginning of the year is because one of two reasons. We don't create space in our day-to-day for the new process or actions to take a hold, or we're constantly focused on the goal and how big of a gap it is, and we convince ourselves that we can't do it instead of following the process reset called W.I.N. So even in this moment right now, there could be one that you're up against. I'll share one of mine personally. My birthday was 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, and I still have not responded to all of the birthday messages. And the longer that goes on, the more guilt I have and the more overwhelming it is, because I keep telling myself, like, oh, I got to do them all. I got to do them all. And the gap is getting bigger and bigger the longer I wait. And so today I was like, I just need to respond to the first 3 because I want people to know I appreciate them and follow up, and the holidays are over and I get a baked in hiding place because my birthday is 2 days after Christmas. So I have like a baked in gap to get back to them. But when I follow the process reset, W.I.N, what's the next action I can take today? Not the best one, not the final one, the next one. I'm going to go respond to the first 3. Is it aligned with who I want to become? Yes. I want to be the person who's grateful for the people in my life who took the time to text me and took the time to message me. That's the I. And then the now, I can send 3 right now, not later, not schedule it, but now. And so when we think about our goals, the goal is great. It becomes the target. But when we fall off, we're not falling off because we don't want the goal. We don't need the goal. It's that we have a big distance between us and the goal, and we need to simplify the action. Because when we fall away from the process, we don't need a new plan. We don't need a new goal. What we need is a win right now. And this is the premise of Atomic Habits and Benjamin Hardy. Our identity doesn't follow the goal. Our identity follows the reps or the process that we take every day. And so when we understand what it actually takes to be consistent and to follow through, we'll call that discipline. But we don't become disciplined by setting bigger goals and making it harder. We actually become disciplined by following this process, shrinking the goals down, and doing them whether we feel like it or not. And when we create that discipline of like, you know what? I ate a crappy meal earlier. I'm going to eat something healthy for dinner, and we eat something healthy. That's discipline because we don't want it. Or when we take my example and send those 3 messages when it's overwhelming, I don't want it. Or we get up in the morning when we're a little bit tired and we do something small, we create that discipline. And that discipline is what creates confidence. And that confidence comes from doing the thing without needing it to feel magical or to get dopamine from it. And I heard this said, and I don't remember who said it, but it was really good. I wrote it down. The scoreboard doesn't make you a champion. Practice does. And the best practice we have is being aware of this and following the process. And so if this lands for you and you want to accomplish big goals, if you want to change your 2026, go back and listen to the podcast, the solo episode I did last week, and then start applying this. Take a pen and paper and write down in your notebook what that 5-step process was that I laid out that we go through in chasing a goal. We need the process, which we have to create the space for, those small aligned actions done consistently. That creates the progress, which creates the proof, which creates the pattern, and then creates the identity. And when we find ourselves drifting away from the actions or the process that creates the result, which is the goal, we need to reset with W.I.N. What's the next action I can take today? Is it aligned with who I want to become? And can I do it now, not later? Because if you want to win the long term, the long game, we have to stop chasing the finish line. And we have to realize that change comes from reps. And we have to master those reps. Because no matter whether we achieve the goal or not, whether we exceed the goal isn't our dream life. It's not waiting there at the end of the goal. Our dream life is actually hidden in our daily tiny decisions that we make every day, and especially the ones when nobody's watching. Because as much as I love every single one of you and I wish I could be there with you, if you end this podcast, you do nothing, and then you start scrolling YouTube or Instagram for 6 hours, that's between you and you. And every one of those tiny decisions is adding up, because those tiny decisions are a process. And that process that you're choosing is making progress, and it's making proof, but it's making the wrong proof and the wrong pattern, which is leading to the wrong identity. And so my deep invitation and encouragement for you this week is I want you to commit to either 3 days, 5 days, or 7 days. And I want you to run the win reset every morning for 7 days. So when you wake up in the morning and you know you have a goal or something you want to achieve or something you want to desire, I want you to ask yourself, what's the next action that I can take today? Is it aligned with who I want to become? And am I willing to act on it now, even if it's not perfect? And I'm even a little insecure talking about this because it almost feels like I'm reducing it down and I keep using myself as an example. But you can laugh at me. I was just at a wedding in Cancun. I talked about it in the last podcast, and I realized I have no self-control with all-inclusive buffets. None. I had leaned out and lost like 10 pounds or so because I wanted to get to like my goal weight and really increase my fitness. And then I did really good on day one. And then I realized that I could eat whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, and however much I wanted. And I think I put on 6 or 7 pounds in 5 days, 6 days. And then I flew to Barbados. And I realized that Barbados's national dish is called macaroni pie. And if you've never had it, you are missing out. Google it, make it. But I had local Barbadians making me macaroni pie, and I couldn't stop eating it. And then I had a 22-hour flight home yesterday, and I was sitting there reflecting. And I'm walking through the airport, and I'm like, oh, I want a smash burger. I want an X. I want a Y. All these like gluttonous things. And then I took myself through this process as I was working on the outline. And I was like, oh my God, I'm following a process right now. And that process is making progress. It's actually making progress in the opposite direction I want to do. And so then I changed my thinking. I shrunk a decision. I'm like, I'm going to eat healthy. And then I woke up this morning and I had a protein bar. And I make these small decisions by following this WIN protocol. But no matter how much we glorify it, how much we try to make it sexy and shiny and glamorous, the truth is that every single one of us has the agency to choose our choices. And those choices are putting us in that flywheel. We are in a process, whether we're intentionally in one or not. That process is leading to progress. That progress is leading to proof. That proof is creating a pattern, and that pattern is creating our identity. And in order to have the identity that we want, we have to follow those steps and make these intentional decisions by shrinking it down as much as possible. And this applies everywhere. It applies to our business, our relationship, our goals, our parenting, our clients, our emails, our social. It doesn't matter where. It's how we operate as human beings. And so my invitation for you is to follow this and commit to this so that you can go through that flywheel and create the results that you want. And so I was really inspired to share this. I was really inspired to record this, and I can't wait to hear how it lands, but I am sending you all the love. I don't know where the next podcast is going to come from. It might come from Tucson or back here in the studio. I don't know. I'm all over the place right now, but I'm loving every single minute of it, helping all these companies and my clients build and scale. And I'm excited to help you do the same thing. But I invite you to really give some credence and weight to what I shared today. And so I'm in your corner. I love you to pieces. I am cheering you on. And so if I can do anything to help you, you know how to get a hold of me. If this episode landed, send it to a friend, share it with a friend. But either way, I will either see you in the next episode or you will hear me in your earballs. But either way, we're out.